Good morning, folks. It's Lindsey Huddleston with SPS back in the building for another SPS Monday Motivation. That's right. Happy Labor Day. I know it's a day many are sleeping in, but the hustle don't stop. The grind don't stop. The labor does not stop. Could have took a day off on vacation, but maybe my vacation will have to be with my feet in the sand somewhere. Wait for a moment before we get going. Coming off a great SPS Stars showcase. Check out on my swag from my guy, Jimmy Sanders, came through and blessed me at the showcase. That Infinity Sports swag, Infinity Sports representing pro athletes. Got me snapped backed up. Representing, huh? Change my swag up, even go with the gray on them too. Who is this morning? Good morning, Michelle. No Mondays off for us. We're getting it going. Happy holidays. Happy Labor Day. Thank you for leasing Orlando Watkins to us to be able to have a great event at the SPS Stars Showcase. We're already planning mid-Michigan, October 16th, and Kalamazoo to follow in November, going to help these young people. But my comments today are totally rooted in what I experienced and what I learned. The greatest thing about the work I do with SPS, not only am I able to be courtside or on the field or close to sports, I'm able to learn. I'm able to take my background in sports psychology and my graduate work and research capabilities to take what's happening right now, Michelle, and be able to process that so coaches like yourself in Orlando and all those great coaches and evaluators that came out Saturday can get more information as it relates to this generation of athletes. A very interesting research article that I read called "Leave Your Ego at the Door: A Narrative Investigation into Effective Wingsuit Flying." Wingsuit? I thought you was about basketball and football. Yeah, we're going to talk about this thing called extreme sports. And the reason why I want to get into this, because the one feedback I got, one consistent feedback I got from the coaches, the evaluators, was that it wasn't really about the skill set of the young people, because that varies. We had some of the top players in the state. I mean, they came out. Thanks for showing the love. Thanks for coming out. But it was more so attitude. It was more so this too cool for school. Not only did I hear it once, twice, or three times, by the time we were at one of the last stations, I went from my John Wooden approach, talking to these young people, to my Tom Izzo approach. Shout out to Tom. Shout out to the legendary John Wooden. Meaning, I went from trying to break it down and be, nice with my words to had to cut into them by the end. And the crazy part is that a lot of them responded to it. But I think what it is ego plays such a huge role in their lives right now. Let's talk about what ego is defined as. And I think that's probably something we don't have a strong definition for, because it's so fluid. But, the legal term, if you will, or the clinical term for ego, is a psychoanalytic term denoting the part of the personality which carry on in relationships with the external world. Not what you think about yourself inside, but how you view yourself with the world outside. Would you say? You had to meet them where they are at. Yeah, baby. Meet them where they are at, Michelle. You're right. And I tell you what, I'm grateful for my corporate experience, but I'm grateful for being familiar with the corner too. So between all that, you have young people who may come from an affluent background who respond a certain way, and those who may be from a background that's not so affluent now, but eventually they'll make it that, as I shout out people like myself and the Lamont Williams of the world, father of Landon Williams, who was a part of the showcase, did a great job, who came and transitioned from the hood, hearing those K's going off at night, to being in the suburbs, so on and so forth. That's another conversation. But also staying with that too, Michelle, the ego is conceived as a group of functions that enable us to perceive, reason, make judgments, store knowledge, and solve problems. Now let's talk about how we're perceiving ourselves. Why would you not have your ego hyped when you showed up at the SPS Stars Showcase? You got a beautiful shirt. Shout out to Stars Activewear. You're in the building with Mr. Basketballs. 1994 Mr. Basketball, Willie Mitchell, who's on my right in the picture, and Winfred Walton, 1996 Mr. Basketball. Willie went on to have a great career both at Michigan and UAB. They won the state championship at Persian. Winfred Walton, folks, in 1996, at one point was rated higher than Kobe Bean Bryant. That's right. That's the legend right there. So you got these guys in the building. They said, Wayne don't even come out. Wayne don't even come out. So he's in the building. You got these eyes on you. Willie did an excellent job coaching our young people. He did an excellent job with that. And if you look even to the part that's seated, shout out to my guy, Eric Brooks, that's Fat's dad. Fat is #1 ranked player in the class of 2024 in the state of Michigan, won the state championship out on the west side of the state at his school. So you got all these individuals in the building that have influence in the game, you know, and they're doing their thing. And then you got the evaluators on deck, you know, shout out to the evaluators that are in the building, including Infinity Sports. You know, you got from a pro level, high D1 level, high school. So it was definitely something to be excited about. So that's that part of that ego that we have to get an understanding of. Shout out to my guy, Jimmy King from the 5-5. Jimmy's a good brother, real good brother. And he was in my first book, Unlikely Saviors, Realizing the Positive Impact Athletes Can Have on Society Through Philanthropy. And I enjoy the friendship that Jimmy and I have. Such a bright young man. Let me even restate that. He is a different kind of intelligent. You know, you got smart people, but then you got people who say stuff, and you be like, what'd you say? And you think about it, but Jimmy said something in the book I will never forget. That's kind of the base of the discussion. He said, ego is important because you all needed ego to get where you were. You needed to believe in yourself. You need to be cocky. I get that. You need to feel a certain way. But then we get to the part where the ego can potentially become problematic because you still keep believing it, even though what you're believing may not be jiving with what's going on. The reason I had such a concern with our young people at the showcase is that their ego was not consistent with their ability. Their ego was not consistent with their ability. And in that statement, in that space is where SPS lives. When I'm with a Tom Izzo or a Mel Tucker, and I just use these two great guys as an example, we talk all the time about their standard. Hell, when I went Matt Bullinger at KVCC, the standard. I just went from a major D1 Hall of Fame coach, Division Pro, D1, you know, Final Four NCAA championship program to KVCC. Shout out to Kalamazoo Valley Community College, which will be hosting us in November, to their standard. Everybody waiting on Tom Izzo to call, and you're not going to get that call. Numbers just don't put that out there. And then you a poo-poo my guy Matt over at KVCC, who's trying to give you an opportunity. And then you calling him once the season start asking for spots. But I am not going to sit here and put the blame totally on our young people. We all play a role in this. As adults, we play a role. As coaches, we play a role. And I'm comfortable enough to take advantage of my relationship with you guys. And you know I come from a space of trying to help. I got to check my ego. I could have said, man, I had a great week Saturday, man. Let me just chill. Michelle would have been hitting me up like, what's up? No Monday motivation? What's going on? I could have been like, no, I'm good. I'm good. No, you cannot rest on your laurels. You got to always think about what's next because ego can be a double-edged sword. Beware of ego. It's a double-edged sword. The outer edge cuts your popularity while the inner edge cuts your purity. See, you're dealing with those external forces with one side of the sword, but the other part impacts what's going on inside. You got to stay balanced. Let's talk about this wingsuit. You guys ever seen a wingsuit? It's when you can put this suit on and fly and jump out, and it'll just catch and fly, you know? So the discussion was about what's happening with it and the ego involved. This is considered an extreme sport, unlike basketball because there's no real rules. But unlike basketball, life and death is right there, right? Then you get the guys who want to come down and fly too close to the trees. And they say that's the part that they're concerned about because that's when people who fly wingsuits need to tame their inner animal. Now, for all my folks out there who will say that's just something white people do, no, this brother right here had a near fatal situation in relation to that. You know, we talk about extreme sports or something that's across the board. But it reminds me of the story of Icarus. The story of Icarus, it's a story of Greek mythology when his father had made this winged suit made of feathers and wax. And he told him, don't fly too high to the sun because the sun will melt the wax and you'll fall. But don't fly too low to the water because the water will get wet on your feathers and it'll be too heavy. But Icarus' ego got the best of him. Hubris, he believed that he could just do it. And that's what happens sometimes when some of our young people get some notoriety, they get rated, someone's talking about them, or their game is this, their game is that. Their head begins to swell up, and we're not there to temper that. And sometimes they may say, oh, my dad just, he's just hating, he's trying to keep you level. Oh, my coach won't, he's trying to keep you level and in the middle, because as the story of Icarus goes, he got too close to the sun and his wings, the wax was melted and he fell and he drowned. And I think this is those sirens are those who found him in the water. And it's a tragic story, and it happens too many times in our world. So what I want to get at, guys, with the time I have, is that ego is a double-edged sword. And the best way you can manage ego, the best way you can deal with it, I'm going to give you 10 quick steps this morning. Do something nice for a subordinate. See, that helps you check your ego. So many times we get these titles, and as my guy Vernon says, people want to know what your title is so they can know how much respect they need to give you, which I think is some crap. But that's just human nature and the way we are. So if you want to help check your ego, do something nice for a subordinate. Do something nice for somebody. That'll help you. Also, tell someone something you've been keeping in for long. Like, man, you did a real good job a couple of weeks ago at that event. That naturally humbles you because it's making you share. You ever got those people who never gave a compliment? Not that you was looking for one, but they can't find it in themselves to give it. Now, that could be ego, that could be insecurity. That's another topic for another day, but we're going to focus on ego right now. Let someone else talk for a change. You're always running your mouth. Perfect example of that, I could say Terry McCord Jr. You guys watch Terry McCord Jr. do an excellent job at the showcase, taking over the reins, interviewing our young people, getting some excellent substantive interviews. I could have been like, no, man, I got to do the interviews. It's my show. The SPS said, no, you got to be able to bring somebody along. And that allowed me to be able to do more, have more availability for the showcase. And Terry did an excellent job. So let somebody else talk for a change. And then going back and letting somebody else talk, really listen to them. Don't just let them talk where it's like the Charlie Brown teacher, want. Really listen. And a good way to show that you're listening is after they're talking, repeat some of the things they said. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, especially if you've been caught in your egotistical bubble for a long time. And I'm talking to everybody from players to coaches to parents. All of us have something that we can work on when it comes to that. Also, step down if you have to. I have a theory, man, that I think a lot of these coaches who've been coaching for a very, very long time, I'm talking about decades, and some of these head coaches, man, they need to become assistant coaches. They need to step aside, bring up an assistant, and listen to them and support them. And I think that's going to do a great amount for the youth game because you'll have that knowledge and wisdom there. And let's face it, that coach is not ready to be done. They won't be going into obscurity. Look at Larry Brown. Larry Brown's assistant coach at Memphis. We know right now that if Penny Hardaway left and went to the NBA or whatnot, or the coach of the program, Larry Brown could easily step in. But for him to be there and provide that guidance, so that's something that can help. Step down if you have to. Something simple like I referenced before, compliment someone. Some of y'all act like compliments going to make you melt like Icarus wings. Can't say nothing nice to somebody. You see it, you want to say it, but you don't have it in yourself to be able to do it. And again, that could be an issue with insecurity, or it can just be ego. A few more of these before we get out of here. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. Nobody likes to do that. Nobody likes to look at it from that perspective. Nobody likes to look at it like, dang, I don't want to look at being like them, but they don't even want to fathom that. But if you do that, it can give you a different perspective. You can see things through a different lens. You get a better understanding of things. Maybe avoid using the word I so often. Man, I did this, I did that. I'm very conscious of that, and I try to be conscious of that going forward, that I'm not making it about me. I'm making it about how can I serve these other young people. Now, if I'm saying I within that regard, I'm not beating my chest. I'm saying, well, I need your help to serve these young people. And believe me, I'm not sitting here like I'm some saint. I'm discussing this thing because I understand the impact it can have. And I'm just trying to put things out there to positively impact other people going forward. Then stop complaining. Complaining. Don't complain. Get out and do something. I'm sitting here saying, man, I don't like the way these young people are approaching basketball and their attitude. Okay, well, let me have a discussion about it. Let me do some research about it. Let me talk to some other coaches about it. Do something about it. Stop complaining. And lastly, the 10th statement that can possibly help you manage an ego: embrace the art of letting go. Let go of something. No, you're not playing like you did years ago. You may have to move on to a different space in your mind. That may have been one of the most enjoyable times for you, and you're concerned about letting that time go because you were a man, you were a woman then. But you may have to kind of go through the valley a little bit to get to another time and space to be somebody for somebody else. And finally, guys, ego is very much a double-edged sword, as the title states. I believe that having no ego is just as terrible as being an egomaniac. Like I said with Jimmy, you know, you got to have the ego to get you there. But once you get there, you got to manage it. It has to be tempered so you can gain the benefits without acquiring the negative side. And how do you do that? By staying present in the moment. We had a station where the young people had a body scan, and they went and they took deep breaths, and they went and they mentally thought about the feeling in their toes, and they worked their way all the way up to the crown of their heads. They all responded very well to it, but you have to work on staying present. So with that, guys, we're at the 16-minute mark. I want to thank you guys on this Labor Day. Hopefully this is something that can help you. This is part of a recap for a great week we had. We did do some evaluations that we're going to work. I've been doing a quality control on those. We're going to actually add more elements to the evaluation going forward in our future showcases throughout the state of Michigan and throughout the country. You know, we don't stop. Again, shout out to Infinity Sports, getting me swagged up for today's Monday Motivation. I want to say thank you guys. Enjoy your holiday weekend, extended weekend, and we'll see you guys next week. None but love. Peace.